Now. Hi, everybody. And I'm back again after the first show, after about a couple of weeks of hiatus, taking it easy, a little bit of things going on. Life happens, sick relatives, busy myself, doing this and that and this and that. We know how that is. Well, this is Dave Emmons, and it's the Strange Reality show, and with your host here, Dave Emmons. And we got a ghostly thing going on tonight. The other night we had a spiritual thing, so it's kind of like in the same vein, I guess you can say. And my guest now this evening, or whenever you hear, or whenever you hear this recorded, we're recording, but we'll be playing this in a day or two, so you'll be hearing it over the weekend. That's for sure. My guest tonight, Russell Reynolds, founder of Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri team, lead for Coldspotters Missouri. So he's actually right across the river from me. He's been investigating the paranormal for 30 years, and he's a maintenance guy, and he does that for a day job. And at nighttime, he works with other things like just like the curiosity. It drives him crazy, and me too in the ET area drives me crazy to research it and go after it. But also, he's been writing a book, and he's working on that, and I know how difficult that is. We just talked about that, Russell and I. But he's got his cousin is Ed Warren and John Zaffis, and so they both worked in the paranormal field too. So Russell Reynolds, welcome to the Dave Emmons Strange Reality Show. And could you add up on your bio and what you're into and what you've been doing?
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. As you said, my name is Russell Reynolds. I'm the founder of Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri, which got founded in 2006 as Beyond Life Paranormal Research back in New York State. And then in 2012, I moved to Missouri and started another branch of it out here, Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. And this one's been running ever since, and it's been booming. We primarily do a lot of residential cases, helping people. That's our main goal, is going out there helping families, kids that are dealing with paranormal activity in their homes. And we also deal with a lot of the dark demonic entities as well. We're one of the few teams that will go in and handle that besides clergy. And we do work with demonologists as well. Farrah Rosedale we work with, which is now Farrah Rose Perry. She works for the diocese office in Springfield. So if things get haywire for us, she's our go-to. Some of the cases I cannot go into because of confidentiality for our clients.
Right.
I mean, I can touch on a little bit of it. My one most scariest case that I dealt with was a partial possession case that was on its way to possession, where the person's eyes rolled in the back of their head. And as I'm standing there looking at her, an upside down cross gets scratched right in the side of her neck.
Oh wow, that's
And that was one of my real craziest cases that I've done and over the years that I've been doing this. And we were able to help her out, get rid of it. It took a course of several months before we could get it back to normal. And
right.
now she's fine today. Um,
Now, Russell, what I understand, the upside down cross is kind of like it's an antichrist, isn't it?
yeah, it's the demonic entity mocking
Mm-hmm.
God because they do not like religious stuff. It basically was showing us, hey, look what I can do.
Right.
You're coming here to get rid of me. I'm going to show you what I can do first.
Right. That's the Knights Templar, I think, started that upside down cross, didn't they? Or, uh,
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
but they had a different meaning for it, I believe. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Yeah, it was a different meaning.
Yeah, Russell, could you explain to us how that happened with the cross right in front of your eyes? You saw this?
It just basically just started forming and appearing. You couldn't see no nails or anything, just scratching it. And she wasn't self-inflicting it because one of my members was standing there trying to calm her down and holding her hands when it happened. And all of a sudden, this just appeared on her neck, and person's eyes rolled in the back of their head, and that was it.
Hmm. You mentioned that your cousin was a demonologist. Now, demonology that works with the person that you just was talking about, this young lady, and with the upside down cross. Uh, Now, how do you determine whether a person is just not having seizures or not having any mental problems, or if they're being possessed? How do you determine that, Russell?
Well, we do before we make that initial contact to go into a client's house, when they actually call us and we're talking to them, we go through a whole background history on them, whether they're diagnosed schizophrenic, they're on medication that could cause hallucinations, as well as drugs, alcohol, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them try not to tell us, they'll try to hide it from us. But I do background checks on my clients, so I know what my team's walking into. You don't want to walk into somebody's house and then turn around and get either robbed or get shot or something.
Right. Yeah.
Team
What
safety is a big thing for us.
what about what do you do? I know I've hung out with some buddies. I got a buddy that writes ghost books. He's from Springfield, Illinois, and he's a prolific researcher. He goes out on by himself actually, and he does a lot of this stuff. He has EVPs and things of that nature. Now, you when you go into a place, do you prepare yourself to meet this evil stuff sometimes, Russell?
Yeah, we do substantial prayers before we enter a location. Also, we wear a lot of protection. Like I wear a Saint Benedict's medal that's been blessed by the Vatican
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And you got to get your mindset mentally prepared, because if you go in there weak, it's going to prey on you. You
That's
want to go in there with that strong mindset that you're protected, you're surrounded by that white light of God, you're not going to get hurt.
Have you ever seen any of your team members get sick or attacked by these?
Oh, yeah. I've seen my medium actually, she's gotten sick from them
Mhm.
and had to bring her outside.
Wow. How does one feel when, I guess, when a an evil entity jumps you? I guess that's what they call it when they jump you.
You can feel the room will just get real heavy pressure wise, and then you feel that pressure against your chest, and then you'll just start feeling real nauseous. Some people do get headaches. It all reacts different to different people, how their body reacts to it.
Mhm. There is such thing as good and evil, and
Yep.
we have it in spirits. We have it in our souls. Some people are what they call have the dark energy, and some people have light energy. And we're the show I had the other night. We talked about people having dark and light energy together, and it's kind of like that yin and yang. That the one, the evil one on the left shoulder, and the good angel on the right shoulder, trying to talk you into doing things. But I think that goes along with ghosts too. They're coming from our spirits, right, Russell?
Yep. Yeah, a lot of them are. I mean, like your residual, they have no recollection of you or what they're doing. They're just replaying what they did when they were alive. Say you have a doorway there when they were alive, and then you actually took that door out, put a wall in, they're going to continue to keep walking through that same door that they did when they were alive.
Mhm.
And they don't notice you. You can't interact with them. Where your intelligence hauntings, they're the ones that can physically hurt you, touch you, throw things at you, talk to you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
especially the ones that provoke,
Mhm.
you can really provoke them. You can seriously get hurt doing it.
I want to ask you this question. I've asked a lot of guests in different research areas. What's the difference between? I know a lot of people have heard me ask this. What's the difference between a ghost, a poltergeist, a dimensional entity, or an extraterrestrial, when they can all be invisible and they all come from a different dimension? And when they come here to us, then you might want to expand upon that. When they come into these houses, they come from another dimension, and that veil is real thin.
Yeah.
Maybe could you elaborate on that, Russell?
Well, like your poltergeists are more of your where your objects are moving, your tables, your cabinets, your chairs standing up in different angles and That's more of your poltergeist. Like if you watch a video from my cousin Ed, the Enfield poltergeist, where he was talking to it and the table was moving across the room.
Mm.
Um, and then your regular spirits, some of them are like your regular people that maybe died in the home, died on the property. A lot of people build a new house, but they don't check the property, what happened on the actual property, and then their new house becomes haunted because it's something with the land. If there was a murder, some people die suddenly and don't even realize they're dead. They're just hanging around because they think, oh, I'm still alive. This is my place. And then most of them get aggressive when they don't want somebody in their space. That's why when you remodel a house, it actually kicks up paranormal activity if there that spirit is dwelling in that location because you're changing its atmosphere, what it's used to.
Mhm.
And scientists are still trying to figure out the paranormal world, the portals and stuff like that. Like they say, mirrors are portals to the spirit world.
Right. Well, I just wanted to point out this picture that's behind me. It's my picture I took back in 2011. And I never smoked in my house, and I had nobody else smoking in house. I explained this to Russell, and there's two black holes, one right here in the door, and that's a dark hole. And here's the doorknob down here. So it's not the doorknob. And up here, there's a dark spot too where a portal could come in. And this could be either extraterrestrial or ghost. I was talking to Russell about it. It could be either one because you don't see the results of it coming through, or you don't see the object that does come through. So that kind of puts me in a tizzy about, okay, what was this? It could have been a ghost, or it could have been an extraterrestrial. Russell, have you ever seen ghosts come in like this?
Oh yeah, I've seen them come in. What that's basically is a mist. What it's trying to do is form an apparition.
Mm-hmm.
What they need is energy to gather energy from. That's why they'll drain your batteries, any of your equipment, because ghosts are made up, they say, are made up of electromagnetic fields. That's why you see a lot of your investigators use EMF detectors.
Mm-hmm.
Some of your EMF detectors aren't always true. They give false positive readings like your K2s, or respond to your cell phones as well as electricity. Your Mel's will respond a little bit, but not as much as a K2 will.
Right. I use a tri-field meter, and usually I take an ambient reading, like
Hmm.
like in the middle of the room, and I get stay away from the outlets and everything. And I take those readings from the outlets. I guess you guys do the same thing. You take an
Yep.
ambient reading in the room, and then you set the device to where you know if something pings on that device, you know there's something magnetic that's near, and so ghosts are actually magnetic in presence. Is that what you're saying, Russell?
Yep. That and static.
Yeah.
That's why you'll see more activity during a thunderstorm than anything because they're drawing off the energy of the static from the lightning.
Mhm. Like,
And a lot of people don't realize your body's made up of, it's got electromagnetic fields because of your brain waves and stuff
oh,
through your,
sure. Yeah.
but we don't give off a whole lot to really set off a meter. We give off a faint EMF field off our bodies.
Right. Now, you said there's residual energy, and then there's kind of like a misty ghost look, or transparent ghost. Are there
Yep.
ever any solid ghost? Have you ever seen a solid ghost, Russell?
Yeah, I have. It depends on how much energy they can gather. I mean, I've seen them where they've been from head down to their shoulders and then nothing else, because that's as much energy they could gather to actually show themselves. And then I've seen them to where they're actually full bodied apparitions where we're looking at each other like now.
Hmm.
You can see their hair, their face,
Wow,
any features on them.
that would be scary.
My first ghost experience was a Civil War soldier apparition when I was 6 years old. And I saw it standing in my doorway at 3 o'clock in the morning in a house we lived in. And it just stood there, and I covered my head up like the little kid. It's not real. It'll go away.
Right.
And then curiosity to peek up over the blanket, and it was gone.
Oh, yeah. I've I've never seen a ghost per se. I've heard knocks and I've heard little things like that, and something messing with my TV that could be, I guess, paranormal. Well, it's actually all covered in paranormal, even ET. But I have never really seen one. I think I've heard them. And a while ago, when you said something about during an electric storm, the lightning and everything going on, and it's like these haunted houses they have in these movies. The
Yep,
same thing. There's lightning and storms going on, and then all
yep,
of a sudden they see these ghosts. So you're right on about that. That's I guess the movies caught on to that early, Russell. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could take your EMF meters when you got a thunder and a lightning storm, set it by a window and watch it. Your like even your K2 meter,
Hmm.
every time that lightning flashes, them meters will spike.
Yeah. No doubt. I can feel the energy sometimes when you have a really bad electrical storm. I like I said, when I went with my buddies, they went to ghost investigating. I would tell them I wouldn't go in because ghosts didn't show themselves to me for some reason. Are there people that ghosts just won't show themselves to, Russell?
Yeah, there is some. I don't know what causes that, why they don't. I don't know if ghosts can feel like a person's emotions or something. It's something I've never really tapped into. I mean, I've seen them, and then there's some that won't. We'll go in a location, won't. They'll be quiet for the whole night.
Mhm. Now, do you guys meet every once in a while? Your paranormal group? Do you meet and discuss projects coming up?
Yep, we actually have a group messenger chat on Facebook that we do a video group meeting because my members are scattered all over the place. So
Mhm. Do you guys ever do any? I guess you've done, I guess, podcasts before, and you have groups that your other people that get involved in talking about these things.
yep,
There's a lot of people that are interested in ghosts. I know that. I know that the ET area is also of interest, but it seemed like a lot of people are into the ghost phenomena, and that's why I wanted you to come on tonight and discuss this topic. I don't do enough of those types of shows, but I want to do a mixed bag of things and see what people are really interested in. But no politics, that's for sure. I don't want to talk about politics. So it's just for entertainment only. Okay. Russell, now you said that you talk to people and ask them if they have the problems, what kind of problems they have. Of course, you got to get permission to go into their house and
yep,
that type of thing. Could you tell us how an interview goes when you talk to somebody, and what do you cover? Do you have an interview form that you go through with
yeah.
the people?
I have a whole question form, and it's got everything stated on there: medical issues, as well as experiences they're having, what rooms they're having it in, any potential dangers that we're going to walk into, like pets that we're going to have to deal with,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And even going in the house, we actually have client permission forms that they sign,
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Uh,
liability forms that we're investigating at our own risk. They're not responsible for us, but my team is responsible for any damages that they may cause if they knock something over in the dark, stuff like that.
mhm.
There's also confidentiality forms for evidence where if they want to let us post it online, what we capture, or it's saying they don't want nothing posted, everything stays confidential.
You're covering all your bases, and you got to, I guess,
Yeah,
because of the kind of.
especially for residential and stuff. Because I mean, we do apartments that are owned by other people. We do rentals, stuff like that.
What do
So
what do they ask you, Russell? I've seen other shows and stuff. These people are they're scared. There's no doubt they're scared of what's going on, and they want to find out what it is. Number one, and then number two, how do they get rid of it? And I guess that's where your group comes in, right?
yep, we do cleansings in homes to get rid of it after we're done. But we do like a 3 home visit. Some teams they're just one and done. They'll go in, investigate, do what they got to do, and then leave and never talk to the client again. Like us, we'll come back as much as we need to. they prefer us to come back and do another cleansing, we'll do another cleansing, but we always check up on our clients.
Right.
We treat our clients like as they were our own family because they don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
And it gives us a sense of relief when we actually help that person to see, hey, I got my life back. They got a smile on their face. Their family's back together. It's not torn apart because of all this craziness going on in the home, especially with the kids, because kids are your weakest. They like to prey on the kids.
And the kids are the most open-minded too. I guess they see things
They're the
before
most
the adult.
sensitive to it. I
Mm.
mean, they can see it as its true form. I mean, we've done several cases dealing with children that have been seeing stuff in their homes, in their bedrooms, something come visit them at night.
Now,
And
what happens when somebody, and do they leave the house when you do these inspections or these investigations, Russell?
it depends on the severity of it. I mean, if it's a real bad demonic entity, I'd rather not have any kids in the home, stuff like that, because it can be potentially dangerous.
Mhm.
And a lot of times I'll let like the parents stay and they'll watch the cameras with my father. My father watches our cameras while we're investigating, and they'll sit with him and watch the cameras. Because a lot of times, if you take the client out of the house, and if the activity is revolved around them, the activity stops. You don't get nothing.
Mhm.
Where they're in the house, when it revolves around them, it usually kicks up something.
Yeah, it's the kids actually are the ones, like you said. It's important to leave them in there because the ghost or the entities are attached to them. Uh, that's a delicate situation there. You know that the
Yep.
are most of the kids, you see these kids, they seem to be talking to these ghosts and they're comfortable with these ghosts a lot of times. Do you see that a lot, Russell? Are kids, they're not
Yeah,
afraid?
we do, and they act like it's an imaginary friend that's somebody to play with.
Mhm.
Like we just did a case not too long ago where their little daughter was talking to something in their bedroom, and she gave it the nickname Vanilla.
Vanilla. Hmm.
And through the history, the place ended up being a school for the blind back in the 1800s, early 1900s.
Mhm.
And we ended up found out what her name was, and that she had passed away there.
Now, when you see these kids talking to somebody, do you have instruments there measuring things when this is going on, Russell? And
Yep.
what kind of results do you get?
A lot of times we'll get REM pod hits or the millimeter. We'll catch some EVPs. I'm not much into the spirit using the spirit box as much because of the static. It drives me nuts listening
Yeah,
to that most of the night.
yeah. That's an
And then
FM
I've got
signal.
I've got the SLS Connect camera, which actually lets you see them. It turns them into stick figures.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The one I've got is actually heavily modified, so it doesn't pick up like your tables, your chairs, like some of the ones you see, like the ones they use on Ghost Adventures. A lot of them pick up your tables and chairs. This one's been really heavily modified to where, and it does 3D image too. So
Now, somebody might be interested in that type of equipment. Is that expensive stuff, Russell?
yeah, it's not cheap.
Mhm.
I know there's a group out there, Horn Paranormal, that makes them, and they do a pretty good job. And that's where I bought mine from, was Horn Paranormal, and theirs, like I said, is heavily modified to where it doesn't pick up objects.
Yeah, and it's hard for ghost hunters or ghost researchers to, I guess, to make enough money to pay you back for all the expenses that you have. You have to love what you're doing, and be
Yep.
in. What is I know my end game for ETs is to really talk to one face to face. I've had that I had that really close telepathic. But for you, what is your ultimate goal, Russell? Is to capture a ghost on film, or to show a presence scientifically? Is that what your goal is?
Yeah, ours is more of the scientific approach when it comes to it. I mean, we debunk a lot of stuff. Like if they're hearing floors creaking, doors are moving, we're going to test that theory and try to debunk it before we prove a haunting. We let the evidence that we capture on our cameras, EVPs,
Hmm.
do the talking for that. We're not going to come into your house and say, hey, your house is haunted. You need to get out of here. We're not going to do that. We're going to come in, we're going to listen to the claims of activity, we're going to do our baseline readings, go through and debunk what we can. Because, I mean, even lights flickering could be a short in a home. You could have a short in that light somewhere or in that switch. A lot of people don't realize your old houses, when the winter, when that weather's changing, it's going to swell the wood. The wood's going to change. House is going to shift. So your doors aren't going to sit right. They're going to open on their own. Or you got suctions from other doors. You can pull one door open and the other one shut, and it'll pull that one open. And that's some of the things that a lot of people don't realize when they buy an old house like that. You're gonna have your creaks, your knocks, your bangs, and the school I work at is over 100 years old, and we have the same issue in it with the doors and pipes are banging and stuff like that.
100 years old. That's pretty old for a school.
Yeah, it was built in 1909.
Oh, no, that's amazing. To have one that old. They usually, I've seen modern schools are only 30, 40 years old, and they don't
Yeah,
use them anymore. They sell them out, or they're empty or whatever. Like a couple of my old school. Of course, I'm not 100, but I'm close to it. But it's my schools are still standing. I guess most of them are. Yeah. Uh, no, but when you go, also, I had this buddy tell me, and he told me that whenever he goes into these places, they'll have these hitchhikers, or they'll have a spirit that will attach to you. And have
yep.
you ever had that happen, Russell, or any of your team members?
I had one once follow me home, and that was the last. It would mess with me at night. It threw one of my dog's toys against my bedroom door, and I got forceful with my words, and I told it, "You better go back wherever you came from, or I'm gonna cleanse this whole house out, and you will be gone." Never heard a peep out of it again.
Hmm.
But we've been lucky so far. I mean, before we leave, we cleanse ourselves, and we
Could you
make sure
could
we
you
cleanse
tell
our
us?
cars.
Yeah, could you tell us the procedure you do for that, Russell? The cleansing.
We do the Native American way with the sage. We'll use a combination of white sage and dragon's blood.
Hmm.
There's a whole procedure on cleansing a house, depending on if it's demonic. You want to go in a circle and you want to chase that entity to the front door and out. And then you want to get that house sealed up as quick as you can so it prevents it from entering.
Do you have somebody that's a preacher or a pastor that's with you, Russell, in your group?
Yeah, Farah goes with us, and she's actually Sister Farah Rose. She's a Roman Catholic, and she'll go with us, and she'll do a blessing. And if she can't be with us, we'll do like a video session where she'll do a protection prayer over us before we enter the building.
How many people do you have going with you at one time? Like say the average, I guess, investigation, Russell.
About 7 of us.
Mhm. And who are ghosts attracted to most? They talk about Bigfoot being attracted to women, but are ghosts attracted to women more than they are men? I mean,
It varies. I mean, I've seen them go after the ladies in my group somewhat, but I've seen to attract more of the little kid spirits
yeah.
because I work with kids in school and stuff, so I have that mentality. They must sense it to where, oh, he's okay, he's safe.
Mm.
And then there's some like men that sometimes get aggressive towards me. If I'll catch them on EVPs cussing at me, and but we're there to do a job to get them out. So my questioning is more direct to the point. Why are you here? Why are you haunting this family? But a lot of my mediums and stuff that are sensitive, they come to them a lot because they know they can communicate with them, they can see them.
Yeah. I had a friend, and God bless her soul. She's still with us. She's had a rough time. I mentioned no names, and I know she'll probably be listening on the show, but she told me a fabulous story about her past husband. He died a year or so ago, whatever, and she had a chance to see him, and he was in a physical form as a ghost, a solid, I
Mhm.
guess, form. And she told me that story, and I just felt, wow, that's very unique. That's very loving, and it couldn't happen to a better person to to see her
Right.
loved one. And do you have stories like that yourself, Russell, that you run into?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we did one case where the woman's husband was messing around in the house, and he would do little things to like play pranks on her. He was a jokester when he was alive, and he would mess with her. He'd move pots in her kitchen, or he'd move something. That was his way of showing, "Hey, I'm here just to say hi." And majority of your loved ones will come back to visit. Like my mom passed away in 2018 of cancer,
Sorry
and
about that. Mm.
I appreciate that. Thank you. She died in my house, and she her way of saying goodbye when she passed away was we had a thing because she couldn't talk very well because of the cancer. She would say, we tell her to move your toes if once for yes, twice for no. So right after she passed, my dad and I are the only two that experienced this. Her toes wiggled like this, like saying bye bye.
Mm.
So, and then that night, my dad felt somebody curl up next to him.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot of times. We talked a little bit about that the other night about your relatives, your past relatives coming back and visiting you. They're kind of like earth angels. They come back
Yeah.
to comfort you and let you know that they're. I had a brother pass away in 2016, very vibrant guy and family loving, and cancer, the same thing. And we would communicate with him squeezing our fingers when we asked him questions because he had brain cancer and he couldn't talk. So he would actually, answer twice for yes and once for no. He'd squeeze our thumb when we had, and I just, it was hard for me to bear that. It's really
Yeah.
a sad thing when anybody loses somebody close to them like that. But I've actually heard him come back, and he's knocked on doors. Do
Right.
is that a typical thing? Is like if there's
Yeah.
is there three knocks or two knocks? What does it mean when they do that, Russell?
Well, three knocks, a lot of times, the three knocks is your demonic entities,
Really?
is because they're mocking the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So
Oh,
that's their way of mocking them by doing the three knocks. Most of your regular entities will do like a one knock, maybe two. You may get four, but your demonics, they usually run in three and sixes.
that's scary. But I've had two knocks and I've had one knock also. I get these paranormal things quite a bit. I'm open minded, I guess you could say, and
Yeah.
consciousness is a real big thing too. I guess in your investigative business too, you have to be open minded and conscious, have that consciousness about you to be a receiver and
Yep.
take the stuff in. And I guess you guys all get around the table and discuss how you can build consciousness so you can draw these spirits to you. Is that, do you have those little control groups that you talk and
Yep.
discuss what you're going to do before this for the job, Russell?
Yep. Yeah, we'll do a big meeting and discuss what we're walking into. Especially, I'm the one that usually does the interviews. They usually call me is when that client does. They usually call my phone, and my dad and I speak to them. And a lot of times, my dad and I'll go out ahead of time and go meet with the client before we actually come in and do the investigation. And then I'll cover all the baseline readings for the EMF and stuff like that. So then that's all documented already. And then all we have to do in go in and initially just set up our equipment and then start investigating.
Mhm.
But we will have a big meeting before we go in, and I'll discuss after I had that meeting with the client what's going on, what their background is, and if they're on any heavy medications or anything like that.
You're one of the few ghost researchers that I've heard that you have a parent that's working with you. Very
Yep.
seldom do you have the parents working with, with their kids or whatever in this type of thing. So your dad, he must have had the bug and caught the bug early in his life about the ghost hunting, right?
Not really. To be honest with you, he was a big skeptic to it. And he went with me on one at another school I worked at, and I was the evening custodian. I worked like 2:30 to 11 there. So I'd be in the school by myself, and strange things my first week there, I'd hear kids running down the hallway. Doors would move on their own. I'd shut the door and it'd be open. Bathroom light would turn on. Toilet would flush on its own.
Hmm.
So I go running down the hallway figuring there's kids in here. And the investigator and me, sure, I'm gonna go check it out. I know there's nobody in here but me. All doors are locked. There's no teachers there. And this is about 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I talked to the superintendent at that time, my boss, and I asked her, I said, "Are you aware of what's going on in here?" And she thought I was gonna quit. And she goes, "I've heard of the phantom basketball bouncing in the gym." I said, "Are you aware of kids running up down the hallway and there's nobody in the building?" And she's like, "You're gonna quit, aren't you? You can't take it." I'm like, "No, this stuff intrigues me. I investigate it." And I asked her, I said, "Would you mind while I'm working if I could set up cameras?" So I'd bring in the game cameras that you use out in the woods.
Mhm.
And she's like, "As long as you're working, you can set them up." And I would set them in the hallway. So one night my dad came in, him and my mom came to pick me up, and my dad come in, and I'm picking up the cameras. Well, his hat goes flying off his head. And I thought, hey, oh, he's playing a joke on me. And so we walked on, went to pick up the other camera. While I'm standing there looking at him, and there was just enough light from the exit light to illuminate. Here goes his hat again, and his hands are by his side. So after that, that kind of made him a believer, like, hey, there's actually something out there that's going on. And even the house that we lived in when I was 6 years old, he was a little skeptical on that too. But he started experiencing some stuff in there where the heat would get turned down in the middle of the night. I think us kids are getting up in the middle of the night playing with it, but we were still a little too small to reach it. And then water would turn on its own, lights, the toilets would flush on their own. And him and my mom did my laundry while I was at school and my sister was taking a nap. And they folded my clothes, set them on my bed, and they were going to go back up, put them away. My clothes are scattered all over the bedroom. So after that, my mom was like, "Nope, we're got to get out of this house."
Oh.
And my dad wanted to open the wall up in the attic because it was sealed up, but they were renting it with option to buy, and he never did it. So this family bought it after I became about 15, 16 years old. This family from New York City bought it, they remodeled the house and they opened that wall up in the attic and they found Civil War uniforms, maps, surgery equipment, guns, bayonets, swords, and come to find out the place used to be a Civil War base and hospital. So it's had a lot of confirmed deaths in it.
That's a lot of expensive antiques there that you're
Yeah, oh
talking about. And you guys missed your opportunity, didn't you?
yeah. Yeah, I said to my dad, I'm like, you missed your opportunity. You should have ripped that wall open.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's great. Maybe that's what got your dad involved in ghost research. You know that
Yep.
he thought, okay, there's something to this. We talked about like when there's lightning, there's extra quartz static electricity energy. Now, when a light flickers, that's a ghost. A lot of people say when they walk in a room, a light will flicker. Uh, is it
Mhm.
is it the person themselves with that energy that's causing that light to flicker, or is there some, uh, I guess, ghostly energy in there, Russell?
It could be paranormal. First thing, I would check the light first before you jump to conclusions that it's paranormal, that there's not a short somewhere in the switch. If there's nothing and it just stops and it's not flickering no more, it goes days on end not flickering, chances are it's probably something paranormal that's doing it.
Yeah. What about when a light bulb, and this has happened to me several times in the past a few months, bedroom light, ceiling light, it actually brightens 5 times more than it usually is. It gets real bright. Matter of fact, you can't even really look at it. That's really bright, and I'm looking for it to explode. You know, light bulbs don't can't take that much,
Yep.
power. And I looked up and I said, "Oh no, I don't kind of look at it because it might explode." So what's causing that? I mean, then a light bulb survives with all that power and energy going through it and brightening
It,
things.
it could be something drawing energy off the light bulb itself.
Yeah, it may not be the light bulb itself, but something is glowing around it, probably.
Yeah, something could be drawing energy off of it
Yeah.
because that's what they need to actually manifest themselves to a full-bodied apparition. They need that electric energy to actually do it. Even to communicate with you, to talk to you, they need that energy. That's why ghosts don't work on cue. You can
No.
ask a question, you can go in an hour before it'll even answer you because it needs to draw up that energy to actually communicate with you. And that's why us researchers carry a lot of batteries because we
Yes.
go through a lot of batteries on an investigation.
Same thing with extraterrestrials. That they do similar things. That's why they're similar in a way, and they can be invisible. Now, when these poltergeists, they're powerful. They're active ghosts, I guess the terminology.
Hmm.
When they throw things around, they're getting energy or power somewhere, but they're invisible. How do they do
Yeah,
that, Russell? Can you explain that?
I think a lot of it's through electrical. They're drawing off of a lot of electrical energy that something's giving off. I mean, like your circuit breakers give off an EMF field. So that's an easy place for them to draw energy from, your power outlets, your
Mm.
cell phones. You could take your tri-field meter, put it up to your cell phone, and you can get an EMF reading off
Oh,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
Same with the K2. The K2 will pick up the cell phones. It'll pick up cameras. I was talking to a YouTuber that goes out to abandoned haunted areas, and he's using a K2 meter. Well, he didn't realize that when he's holding it up towards that camera to get a close view of it, that camera's actually setting that K2 off, and he's thinking he's got paranormal evidence going on. And he didn't realize that he wasn't experienced enough with K2. So I kind of gave him some pointers on it. I said, put that K2 on a table somewhere and stand back from it.
Yeah.
And you want to stand a pretty good distance from it because you can actually, we tested that theory out on an investigation. We were in a garage and we had it set across the room. And if I stepped forward halfway to that room and I was filming on my cell phone, it picked up my cell phone. Then I'd step back, it'd stop. Step forward, it'd spike again. So, and a lot of people go in and not all entities are demonic either.
Yeah,
You'll get
yeah.
your regular ghosts that'll try to act demonic because they're trying to scare you out of there. They don't want you in their territory. They know why you're there. And it's a lot of them too. When that client calls for help, them entities know they're calling for help and they know who they're calling. So, like us, when we go to an investigation, I won't call the client. I'll text them and say, hey, we'll be there such and such time. Said just keep it to yourself. Don't say nothing in the home. We like the element of surprise, and it's actually worked pretty well for us. When we do that element of surprise, it's like that entity's like, hey, they're actually here. I didn't know they were coming.
Have you ever heard the old saying, Russell, about you go in the woods and you hear a noise, a tree will crack or fall down.
Mhm.
And if nobody's in the woods, then nobody hears it. Does it make a noise? And same thing with ghosts. Aren't
Yep.
ghosts present all the time? They don't need
Oh yeah.
human intervention.
Oh yeah. There's spirits around us all the time. Everywhere we go, there's always a spirit walking. I mean, you figure your Native Americans died on this land. You've had wars, especially Missouri here. We're loaded between the Mormon wars and then Civil War, Native Americans. You've had your mob hits. So they're around us 24/7. And a lot of people choose not to believe in them. So that's why they really don't experience anything because they're not opened up to it like some of us are, like our these investigators are. We're more open to it and prone to it to sense, hey, there's something around us. Like my house here is actually haunted. There's 3 confirmed deaths in my house, and once in a while it'll kick up and then disappear.
Hmm.
You won't hear
Don't
nothing once on end.
are they trying to scare you out, or are they just letting you know they're there?
They're just letting me know they're there. They're former owners of the home. One was killed in a tornado in '75, and then the other former owner, he passed away of cancer in the home. So I think he just comes back to check on his house,
Mhm.
and then he just goes on.
Can
My
you?
mom back from time to time also to check on us.
Oh yeah, guardian angel. Yeah, it's now. Can you? Is there a difference between, I guess, when a guardian angel passes through the veil or when a ghost passes through the veil? Can you tell a difference? I guess one's positive, one may be negative, but not all ghosts are negative, right?
No, not all of them are negative. Some are good, and some of them just want to be left alone. Like when we go in, we try to leave the good because the good will pass on their own. When they're ready to go, they'll go. We mainly get rid of the bad,
Hmm.
but majority of our clients want it all gone. So a lot of times, but we don't like to do that. We don't like to chase the good one out of their home. We rather let them just pass over it. Like one house we did, there was a man that died there, and he comes back from time to time to visit, and he likes the client's grandkids. He'll come back to visit her grandkids, and
Well,
then he leaves,
yeah.
and then they won't see him. They won't hear nothing or see nothing months on end, and then all of a sudden he comes back again.
Do you do this also? I heard a lot of ghost hunters and psychics. They'll go to a house or a medium, and they'll tell the ghost to go to the light. Now, my theory is God is all powerful. I mean, if and the angels will help a person go through that light or that tunnel to another dimension, to heaven, what they talk about in the Bible. Do you do the same thing? You tell them go towards the light, and why do you think you have to do that? Isn't doesn't God give people enough knowledge to know which way they got to go?
It should, but with that little extra added help, it actually helps them out a little more, especially if they don't have that enough energy to do that. Where we're actually helping them and doing the prayers and stuff to get them to go to that light. And a lot of them don't want to go. A lot of them just rather stay here.
Yeah, they still have some loved ones there that they're still watching or
Yep.
being around. Yeah,
Where like a lot of them are waiting for like their, say like the wife passes away suddenly. She may hang around till her husband is ready to go himself, and then they'll both leave together.
and a lot of times they do die within a short period of time of each other. I
Yep.
guess that's what they call love and attachment. Uh,
Good.
have Have you ever seen? Now we talk about the portals. These ghosts come in. Have you ever seen a ghost come through a portal and lights up, and there's a light or something that they come through? You ever seen that, Russell?
We've seen something similar, like a manifestation through a portal in a location that we did in a closet. You could see it was just like a little white manifestation light, and it just kept growing and growing as it was coming through. And that's as much as we've really seen as far as that. We've never seen them come through mirrors or anything like that.
I've heard talk about mirrors that a lot of spirits will come through mirrors, and actually ETs come through mirrors. I don't know how true that is. I've never seen it myself in all the
Right.
things that I've seen in my life,
But
but
there is a theory with a mirror where you can take like a candle, just light a candle and stare in the mirror and focus on, say, like your loved one. And supposedly, I've never tested this theory because I don't like messing around with that because that could be potentially dangerous. Your face is supposed to change to that person you're thinking of,
mm,
and you really don't want to be staring into a mirror that's a portal and having something come through because I mean you don't know what's coming through that.
right, you could be jumped for a long time.
Yeah, you could
Permanent.
have something evil come through that and you're staring at it and you could take it with you.
Hmm. Now, I wrote a book on angels and supernatural entities. That was my third book. I I have stories in there of people encountering really true human type, solid type angels. They come, they manifest into a body, a human. And my sister ran into that about a year and a half ago while she was in the hospital waiting heart surgery, and she saw something come through the door, two big doors right near a nurse's station where her room was at. And she said normally she'd see the light from the hallway come in the room as somebody comes in, but she didn't see no light. All of a sudden, she had this woman about 5'4", a little chubby, but she had short cropped hair, and she told her everything will be fine. You'll be all right tomorrow. And so she turns and walks away. But she says she didn't see the doors open or close. And this was manifested in a solid form. And it's one of the stories I put in my book that she saw that, and the nurses talked to her about it the next morning, and they asked her, said, "Are you going crazy? Or are we giving you medication?" They took her through an acuity test. So
Mm,
I don't want to go into the acuity test, but they took her through an acuity test, and they found out that she was okay, but she was telling the story straight.
right.
She wasn't on meds or anything that would cause that. So there's been a lot of you know that type of thing, human form coming to a person. They'll come to you any way you want them to come. I guess if you want them to come with wings, they'll come with wings because they want to identify with you and your thoughts and your feelings. But I guess what I'm getting at is we're drawing such a thin line, this veil, the dimensional veil, where ghosts, angels, and actually ETs come through, and it's really hard to determine, what it is until, I mean, maybe you guys researching ghost, you're pinpointing what you're looking for and what you're looking at, so you know what they are. That's I don't think angels would come and haunt a place all the time. That's
No,
they
they,
only come in the
they
time of need. Yeah, yeah,
and a lot of people don't realize either. They go antique shopping. They
yeah.
go to yard sales. They're bringing stuff into that home You don't know what's attached to that. So you're bringing whatever's attached to that object into your home, and you're opening a whole can of worms. Your home wasn't haunted before, and then you're bringing that object in. Now you got a haunting. And I tell people that ask me about that all the time, before you bring that in your house, have it cleansed. Get whatever's attached to it off of it, and don't do it on the property because it'll linger on the property and still come in the house.
Right.
And that's like Ouija boards. People play with Ouija boards,
Ooh.
and
Yeah.
they, especially as kids, they think it's fun. Oh yeah, we're going to talk to spirits. You think you're talking to a dead loved one, but really you're not. You're actually talking to Zozo himself.
Yeah.
He's going to disguise himself. Your demonics are the perfect liars.
Hmm.
They'll show themselves as a beautiful person. Oh yeah, I'm this dead loved one, and people are feeding into it. Oh yeah, I'm talking to my friend, or I'm talking to my dad, or my mom, or whoever. And you've opened that door, you let it in. And then all of a sudden, something bad happens and you get scared. You don't close that board out, that door remains open. And then you're just letting anything through. It's like a revolving door in and out.
Yeah. It's like the Aladdin's lamp. Be careful what you ask for.
Yep, exactly. And
Uh,
I mean, there's other people that there's so many mixed emotions with the Ouija boards. I mean, there's other people that use them, nothing happens to them. But several of the cases I've been on involving them, it's never been good.
I guess I don't play around with that kind of stuff. That anything that could attract evil. I, I
Yeah,
I don't I don't want evil around me. It's
it's them Ouija boards bring nothing but headaches to people. And a lot of people, you can take a Ouija board and throw it in the trash. That's not going to solve the problem. That door is still open. What I tell people to do is take it to a crossroads, bury it, but you need to bury that planchette away from that Ouija board, or take it off the property somewhere and burn it.
yeah.
Another what I've been told by demonologists is that's the other effective way is burn it off the property.
Right. Yeah, that's the way I thought about doing that. But as a kid, I guess we ran into that, but we never really. I guess when you're playing with a Ouija board, like you got to be careful what you ask for. If you're afraid of it, like a kid like I was, I didn't want to play with them. Actually, when a young kid, so I knew better. That would attract something negative to me.
You
I, Now, when you cleanse a house, my brother said that he used a sage to cleanse his house, but he also
know?
had his house blessed because he thought he was on top of an Indian burial location in one of his first houses he lived in. Now, is that what you do? You use the sage really works as a cleansing thing, Russell?
It all depends on how you use it. It's all more your belief system. See, I'm also part Native American, so and it's how strong you are and how strong your faith is. I mean, we also use holy water, stuff like that as well too. But we've been effective with the sage, and it all depends on your haunting, on cleansing it out. Like your dragon's blood sage is more for your negative entities. Your white sage is more for your regular entities. Your white sage isn't going to work on your negative.
Mhm.
And then we'll also burn cedar sage too, which is another Native American. Native Americans believed cedar, because of the smell of it, would also cleanse negative entities out because they don't like the smell of it.
I uh, I lived in an apartment when I was younger after I got out of the military, and the whole room, the bedroom, was all cedar walled. And when the temperature changed, boy, that would snap like a gun. It sounded like a gun going off. Cedar does. I said, no, I don't want to. I don't want to stay here. I just tossed myself out of bed. It just popped real loud. So how do you use the cedar? You use chips and you burn it? Is that how you do it, Russell?
No, I've got the sage sticks to where I'll put them in the bowl, and I've got the Native American feather, and I fan it throughout the house. But you want to do every nook and cranny, any place that it's going to hide, because that's what's going to happen. That entity is going to go run and hide somewhere and stay in that house, and then you think, oh boy, you've done the cleansing, you sealed the house up, it's all good. As soon as that sage wears off, that entity goes on a rampage again because you trapped it in there. And we've had several clients where they've tried to cleanse their house themselves, and they've done it wrong, and they've trapped stuff in, and then they sealed the house up, and it's all, that whole entity's trapped back in. And the main areas they'll hide is dark areas. They thrive in dark areas. Your attics, your basements, crawl spaces, closets, any place that it's dark.
Mm. So the movies have it right.
Yep,
They have it right. Yeah, like and under the beds with little kids. Yeah, these
yep.
monsters and everything. I uh I guess I never wanted to get into ghost hunting. I have done it, but some years back, maybe 12, 14 years, and I hung out with these guys, and we were all involved in a meeting group, and we had maybe 30, 50 people involved in meetings, and some of them would do ghost hunting, some of them would work on UFOs type stuff, and I did that, but I went with them sometimes, but I was never one that I didn't want to mess with spirits.
Right.
I don't mind the angelic type spirits. I welcome them around, but we talk about these evil spirits. They can cause havoc with a family, and they can make them
Yep.
fight and fuss. Have you ran into that,
Oh,
Russell?
yeah. Yeah, quite a bit where they've argued. We just well, like that one case I was telling you about, the upside down cross, that client was actually fighting with her husband. The family was real negative. They were just arguing back and forth. They got pretty heated, and she got to the point, and her husband wasn't doing anything wrong. The man works 2 jobs, so, and it was just that entity. They like to cause havoc. They prey on the weak. If most of your people have like past trauma as a kid, like abuse, rape, kidnap, that's a perfect breeding ground for negative energy, because that's what that is, and that's what feeds it. So that makes that person an easy target because they're weak. And what that entity is going to do is tear apart families. It's going to make a person sick, because what it wants to do is kill that person to it wants its soul to take them over.
When an evil entity takes over a person's soul, what happens during that process, Russell?
They become possessed to the point they're speaking in different languages. They're getting violent. Um, their eyes will start turning black, rolling in their heads, and they have no control over their body and what they're doing and stuff like that. And they can go kill somebody and not even have a recollection they did it.
Yeah, I think we talked about this young girl that she was a possessed, and you guys tried to get this evil spirit out of her. We never finished on how that ended up. Could you go back and maybe tell us how that all
Uh,
started and ended, Russell?
I can't devour into too much of it, like I said, because of confidentiality. But what happened was, we did the first cleansing. We cleansed her. We were able to get it away from her, and we got it out of the house. And we kept coming back throughout several months to just keep an eye on it and evaluate the situation. And we would come back, do more cleansings on the house just to be sure that if a barrier got broken, it didn't get back in. Because like your garages and stuff, when you're running over that barrier, you're gonna you're going to kick it out and you're going to break it. But it took several, probably about 6 months before we got it back to normal. That demonic entity left, it's no longer present. Once in a while, the former owner pops in and out of the house to visit, and she is totally normal. She's crocheting, doing family stuff. The family's back together. They're not fighting. They're all having fun, and she's like family to us. She invites us over to dinner and stuff
Hmm.
of how good we helped her family out and brought her family back together.
You've had a lot other possession cases also, right, Russell? I mean, have you had some that you weren't successful in working with?
Yeah, we had one that we weren't, and once it gets past that point, we have to call somebody else in. We won't leave the client hanging. We're there to help. We're gonna stay and help until somebody more experienced with that can get there.
Right.
And we did a case where we had a priest come in, and they were actually able to, we turned it over to them and they were actually able to help the client.
Now, are these priests, are they easy to get a hold of, or are they, will they take that kind of a job on? And
Yeah,
yeah,
there's Catholic priests will. Like I said with Farah, I just give her a call and she takes it from there.
mhm. Now, does the family have to be Catholic for them to do this, also, Russell?
Yeah.
You don't- Okay.
I mean, you can have a priest, but like an exorcism has to be done through the diocese office. You have to actually get a hold of them for them to come in to do an exorcism because that's got to be okay by the Vatican and stuff like that. And I guess they've got to be logged. There's a whole background from what I've heard on that.
Right.
I don't know too much into that because that's more a Ferris thing. But she mentors me on more of the demonic and stuff, what to look for and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And
usually when it gets out of control to where I can't handle it, I usually just call her.
there's no other pastors or anybody that does the cleansing of souls other than Catholics. Is that the only
Uh,
one, Russell?
no, Baptists will do it. I mean, Methodist, they can come in your house and do a home blessing on a home.
Hmm. I think this is good information. You're telling people that, you know, in case they do have a haunting, that they want to get rid of it. And uh, we might have ghost hunters around here, investigators. We used to, but they're not formidable like your group. You know, you have a big group and you work together, and that you get to be professionals at that point when you work together long enough and you have a group that knows what they're doing. Uh, but I guess you have to find a research group to find out what you're dealing with, and then after that, then you go to a priest or a
Yep.
pastor, and you guys usually have to call them, right?
Yep. We usually call in and then any evidence, we'll show it to them and then they can take it to the church and get the okay for whatever they need to have done. That's where us researchers will come in for that. And that's similar to like what Ed and Lorraine Warren used to do. They'd go in and then they get the evidence and then they turn it over to the church. And then the church would okay the exorcism and stuff like that.
Mm. You said you have Native American blood in you. I got 15% Crow Indian in me, Native American Indian. And there, you know, I grew up with a family, the grandparents that they would be afraid of anybody putting a hex on them or curse. And so they would, you know, do things, I guess, to cleanse themselves. Now, do ghosts put hexes or curses on people, Russell? Can they do
I've
that?
never heard of anything like that, them doing that.
Hmm.
I've only heard where like your demonics will attach to you, but
But it's
I've
only
never heard of
it's,
any hexes or
yeah.
curses. I've only heard people doing that. Anybody that plays with witchcraft and stuff like that can do it.
But if you're strong enough, you can fight that off.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. You know, people might say, somebody's cursing me. I said, no, they're not. If somebody trying to put a curse on you, if you're strong enough, you can fight it back. Ask for your guardian angels to help you and pray and this type of thing and cleanse your soul that way in meditation and prayer. And I'm believing stronger and stronger in this meditation and prayer thing. Now, to go back on the sage, I researched it when my brother was talking about the sage, and we're on this Native American Indian thing now, and they use these ceremonial things, the smoke. They use other smoke too, I guess. But I told my brother I researched sage. Sage is actually a good cleansing thing in your house. It kills bacteria. Is that
Yep,
true?
that is true, and it's also good for your body too.
Yeah.
Our last investigation we did, I had a sinus infection going on, and when I cleansed the house, I was inhaling that sage smoke, and by the next day, I was better. It was gone.
I heard that it has a double whammy to it. It cleans ghosts, and it also bacteria wise, it's a good
Yep.
thing to have in the house. Uh,
And it also calms moods too, as well. I mean, like your lavender sage will calm somebody's mood down and stuff like that.
mhm. I'll have to get some of that and try that. Yeah, that's pretty. You can't chase away extraterrestrials, so that what does not work on extraterrestrials. People tell me, so, well, Dave, cleanse your house. No, it doesn't work with extraterrestrials. they they'll come and do what they want to do when they want to do it, and you have no choice usually. Uh, but getting back to the Native American uh, Indians. My fourth book I'm writing, and the lead character is a Native American Indian. So I wanted to give them credit. Not that I have the blood in me, but I have a heart for Native American Indians, what they went through in this
Yep,
country, to what
me
they've
too.
been through. Yeah. And with you with a little bit of blood in you and me, my grandma, she looked like a total Crow Indian, really. And I couldn't, when I was a kid,
Yep,
I was thinking they all looked, with the long dark black hair and stuff, and so I knew that they were Indian of some kind. So I found out later on that, yeah, I had about 15%. But the Native American Indians have a culture in which they have these ceremonies. They are probably more progressed in this type of thing than we are in ceremonial cleansings and things. Can you add to that, Russell?
yeah, that is true. I mean, my grandmother was full-blooded Comanche Indian, and my dad, I never got to meet her. She died about 3 years before I was born, and my dad was telling me that she used to take him to the powwows and stuff in Oklahoma. She grew up on the Oklahoma Indian reservation, and she used to take him to powwows, and they for all the ceremonies. So my dad's kind of told me some stories about my grandma and about how she used to burn the sage and stuff like that. She
Mhm.
used to cleanse my grandfather, especially when he came home from World War II, and
Yeah,
she
when you cross over from Missouri, where you're at on the four, you don't name your town or anything. I don't get into that, but uh, you're not that far from Oklahoma border, and once you cross into the Oklahoma border on Highway, what is it, 40 or something like that?
yep,
Yeah, and you cross in there, then you see Indian reservations. You see casinos too on Indian land, and I always thought I'd like to stop there and just stay a couple of days and and hang
right.
hang out with the Native American Indians and just get a taste of their culture. I never did. I kept driving through, but I kept looking back, like thinking, that probably pretty neat to spend a day or two, there on the reservations. Uh,
We actually did a case down near the Indian reservations in Oklahoma and Miami, Oklahoma.
mhm.
And driving through there, you could see all the Native American land and the land that had been taken by the government from the Native Americans because they had actually still have the signs up that says this is government land.
Yeah.
And right where our client's house was, they're the only white people that still own land there that and the Native Americans actually want the land, and they're right near the Trail of Tears. And apparently, back in the '90s, some girls went missing. They think they're buried on that property back in the woods back there.
There's a lot of missing people nowadays, missing kids, and this is for educational purposes only. Just by mentioning that, they talk about this a lot. But now, how did the Native American Indians get rid of evil spirits or ghosts, Russell?
They
What were
did it with their sage.
they?
Yep, cleansing with their sages. And their biggest one was the cedar sage. And then their other one was pine. Pine's another one that they used to burn too to cleanse negative spirits.
Okay, they did a dance or a drum beat
Yep,
too, a
yep,
methodical drum beat. And on Skinwalker Ranch, when they had the Indians pounding these drums at a certain tempo, it actually brought forth some kind of orb or something on Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know if you know, but that was amazing to see that. And
yeah.
it was the frequencies. I wanted to ask you, we're getting a lot into frequencies now, and about the energy chakras of our body, and the different frequencies that help the pineal gland, grow or cleanse itself. Do you guys ever use frequencies and trying to, get these ghosts around you, Russell?
Oh yeah. Well, I've got some ones on my phone that you can change to different frequencies and stuff to mess with,
Mhm.
and it actually, especially like your EVPs run on a different frequency to where they're low. That's why you have to enhance them when they speak to you because that's on a lower frequency of sound. So we'll use the sound frequencies to try to bring them forward that we can hear them through that frequency. And that's why a lot of investigators use the white noise because they can manipulate the white noise to actually talk through.
Could you explain to us what we mean by white noise? I know I've heard it and I might know about it, but for the
You
people.
know, like an old TV where you see the snow.
Mhm.
If you watched the movie Poltergeist,
Yes.
where a girl's at the TV and she goes, "They're here."
Yeah.
That's the white noise they can actually manipulate, and sometimes they can actually use it. You can see them through the white noise, through that snow on a TV, and they'll use that. You can use that. That's what your spirit box is basically doing when it's sweeping through radio.
Mhm.
It's actually sweeping through the white noise static on the radio that they can use to talk through.
That's an FM signal on that ghost box, right? It sweeps.
You can do FM or AM like mine. I like to run it in AM because FM you get too many radio stations, so you're not getting a definitive voice out of that spirit box because you're actually picking up radio clips from radio stations. So that's where a lot of investigators make mistakes too on that because when that's sweeping through that radio, you may be picking up a radio DJ's voice. That's why I try to run it in AM because there's not much radio coming through on an AM frequency than there is an FM.
Mm. Now,
Where like my buddy KD from Supernatural Inc., he makes spirit boxes, and the way he makes them is it cuts it out altogether. All you have is just a static.
right. I have a guest next week. He's with the Ghost Hunters TV show. They call it Ghost Hunters Reboot, and his name is Daryl Marston. You heard of
Okay.
him? Yeah.
Yep. I've heard of him. Yep.
He's supposed to be with me next Thursday, I think. Yeah, and he's been busy. He would have showed up yesterday, but he's gotten busy and he's involved in a lot of different things. But that Ghost Hunter show is back on. But there's two of them. They split up. I guess there's two.
Yeah. There's Jason made his own show, and then Grant was doing Ghost Hunters again.
Right. Okay. Getting to ghost researchers and everything, could you tell people what equipment they really need to hunt for their own ghost, Russell? Essentials. Let's go to the essentials.
Uh, you need a digital voice recorder for your EVPs. Um, digital camera, even the old 35 millimeter cameras work better too with them, where you have to actually develop them.
Mm.
Uh, we use full spectrum camcorders, stuff like that. Thermal's another big piece of equipment that works pretty well. Um, you can use a digital camera where sometimes you'll capture a mist, but you capture a lot of orbs. And I'm not so big sold on orbs. I mean, a lot of orbs can be debunked as dust. And like us, we use DVR cameras. That's another good piece of equipment to get. So when you're not actually in that room, your DVR camera is doing the work for you, capturing anything that goes on in that room. And most of your DVR cameras, you can actually set up mics to them to where that'll record your sound through the DVR system. And when you're at Command Central, you can listen through headphones onto the DVR.
Right. Okay. Let's end up with some of your scariest ghost stories that you have, Russell, that you can tell us about as we go near the end of the show.
Uh, the one, my one was Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. We were on the fourth floor surgery room, and our tour guide was telling us about an experience he had in there with some guests. They weren't getting no activity, so he went in there to help out. He laid on the surgery table and his leg got lifted up.
Ooh.
So we tried to recreate that. So I played the guinea pig, and my one former member, I said to him, I said, I'm gonna lay on this table, you wheel me under the surgery light, and we're gonna play like I'm sick. So I started coughing like I was sick, and we were yelling for a doctor, and our motion light went off on the shelf. And the only way that it go off, someone has to walk past it. And my two former members, they're sitting on the floor over by the window, so they're nowhere near it. And this was in the doorway. So I heard a noise and I went to sit up. I couldn't move. It was like something was pinning me to the table. I couldn't move my hands, my legs. I couldn't even sit up. And then we hear two loud, high pitched women screams in the hallway on the same floor. So my immediate reaction was, hey, text that other team we were with and find out where they're at, because they had females with them. So we thought maybe they got scared, but they ended up being up on the fifth floor on the opposite side of the building on the roof.
What did it feel like? Did it feel like a weight that was on you, or were you
Yeah,
just?
it felt like somebody took 100 pounds and just set it right on me
Hmm.
where I couldn't move. And the other experience was we were walking back because you can only investigate till 4 a.m. We were walking back on the fourth floor, and this white figure, probably about 5 foot tall, comes running down the hallway at us, runs in between my one former member and I. And it was so quick, you could feel the cold air as it went by. And we looked back, it was gone. And the other team come in behind us, and I was like, "Did you see something come down that hallway?" They were like, "No, we didn't see nothing." And then we were down at before we packed up for the night, we went down to the body shoot because the Waverly Hills challenge is you have to do the body shoot at 3 a.m. and you have to go all the way to the bottom. So we did that and all the way to the bottom, and we hear something slam the gate up top on us. And I yelled up there, hello, no answer. There was nothing. And we started snapping pictures, and you see in each picture this big black mass that filled the whole body chute coming down at us. It was the most freakiest thing you'd ever wanted to see, is this that whole hallway just fill up.
Hmm.
And then Missouri State Penitentiary, we were down in the dungeon cells, and we were just getting set up, and we had these other group with us too. We actually warned them. We were like, they wanted to go with us. They were from another team that invited us. And I was like, if you guys get scared, I don't recommend you guys going with us because there's chances are you're gonna see something. And we were down in dungeon cell just starting up. We set up all our equipment. We set up music boxes, motion lights in the hallways. We hear a woman go, "Hello," clear as day, and I captured it on video. And we looked everywhere. They never housed women down in the dungeon cells. They only housed the firebug down there. And I talked with the tour guide from there, Diana, and she's like, "You're not the only one to report that. Several other people have reported a woman voice down there." And that night, when we got done early, we got done about 6 in the morning. I walked out with it looked like somebody took a cigarette and burnt the inside of my arm. It was black and blue. And I never felt it happen, nothing. And it stayed there for a few days and then finally disappeared. And another crazy experience I had was we did a old hotel up in Rockport, Missouri, and was in the back of the library. And my two former members stayed up towards the front of the library, so I decided to walk to the back by myself. Well, I get over into one part and I hear bang. This toolbox lid had lifted up on its own and slammed down with force.
Ooh.
And I capture it on video, I'm just like, what the hell? And my former member goes, "Was that you?" I said, "No, that wasn't me. I'm way over here." So I walk over, I find the toolbox, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, how in the heck did that do that? And I lift up on the toolbox lid and recreate the sound. And that place, that one night my dad and I, we spent the night there. The rest of my team went to hotels, so we were like, we're just gonna spend the night in this haunted location. She had a storefront, so
You guys are brave.
we slept on the couch.
Yeah.
And there's no power in the building, so we were running a generator. Well, about 3 in the morning, the generator kicks off. Building goes completely dark where we're at. And I had just nodded off, and my father says to me, "Hey, wake up, look in the doorway. Here stands a 6'5" figure in the doorway looking at us." Never did anything, just stood there staring at us. And
Could you
then just,
see who it was, or
no, it was just a black outline. That was it. We think it might have been the former owner that owned the place, just checking because the power went out. He might have been just checking his guest or something. He never did anything. He just stood there for a few minutes and then was gone.
there's a story about the tall shadow man. Could that be also and they see it outside? And I was going to ask you that too. Do you ever see ghosts outside?
I know which one you're talking about. You're talking about Slender Man.
Slender Man, yes.
I've never seen Slender Man. I mean, I hear he's more frequently in Wisconsin is where they see Slender Man most of the time,
Mhm.
but I have heard reports of him here in Missouri.
Now he's an outside critter. And
Yep.
have you guys ever done an outside investigation in the like in the woods or
Oh
any
yeah.
like that?
Yeah, we've done cemeteries before. We've actually done a skinwalker case
Oh wow.
out in the cemetery. And that actually scared my father. This was during the day. We were just getting set up. We buddy of mine went with us, and he's also a paranormal investigator. So him and I were setting up a DVR system in the cemetery,
Mhm.
and I was at my car getting some equipment. So my dad decided to walk out into the cemetery during the day. It was still daylight yet, and this hawk flies up in the tree. So my father starts walking towards the tree, and a red-tailed hawk will not stay; they'll fly away. Well, this hawk stayed there. And my father got pinned up against a tree,
Ooh.
and he didn't have no. This was before he got his protection stuff. He didn't have nothing on, and it grabbed him by the wrist, and it made him feel sick. So he stayed in the vehicle for the rest of the night because he did not feel well.
Did he have
And
bruises?
he had a thumbprint right here where it grabbed him, and it would appear, last about a week, disappear, and then show back up again in a week. And my one member, she called me over. She's like, "Hey, I'm hearing something in the woods." So I walk back there with her, and here's that same hawk sitting in the tree in the woods. And so it got dark. We started doing our investigation. We went over by the woods over there, and my one member did a big no-no. She went off on her own, which I don't allow that in my group because of safety reasons. And she got near the edge of the woods, and we couldn't see her because it's pitch black out. About 5 seconds, she was back behind me because she heard footsteps coming at her through the woods. And we heard something up by the woods, up in the upper part of the cemetery. So we walked up that way. An owl lets out a hoot right in front of me. And my buddy goes, he hit the flashlight and he says, "Don't move. You're about 5 inches away from getting impaled by a sharp fence post." So it was luring me up there to impale me with a fence post in the stomach.
Ooh, that's scary. And so
Yeah.
you think that this was a skinwalker, the hawk that
Yep.
he took the body of a hawk, but he changed he shapeshifted into a larger, maybe skinwalker creature or whatever?
Yeah, he shapeshift to an owl, and they're known for that. They shapeshift to different types of figures.
Mhm.
They were old Navajo witch doctors, and they say the theory with the skinwalkers is they frequent cemeteries and they'll travel 50 miles a night. They try to dig up to make other skinwalkers. They'll dig up bodies to make other skinwalkers, is what the theory is behind the skinwalkers.
Ooh, that's a even if they're skeletons, they can still
Yep.
use them?
Yep. And
That's
then we had another experience. My dad and I were on our way back home from the store, and this was after dark. And I was actually on a podcast called Missouri Monsters talking about this one. And we were out by Amish country because we have a lot of Amish up where I live. And we were coming through there, and this black figure, was standing on two legs on the side of the road. And I thought maybe it was an Amish guy without a flashlight because they wear a lot of dark clothing. And this thing dropped down on all fours, ran in front of my car. I stopped. My headlights passed right through. And then it got on the side of the road, stood straight up to two legs again, red glowing eyes, and then just disappeared.
yeah. That's scary, the skinwalker thing. I know there's a lot of Native American Indians who don't even want to talk about skinwalker
Nope.
because even talking about them draws them to you. I guess this is the close of the show and the very interesting stories. I wanted to get those most interesting stories from you before we closed out. Uh, could you tell us about what you guys are going to be doing, your group, and where they can find you, Russell?
Uh, you can find us on Facebook at Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. You can find us on Google. If you search up Paranormal Investigators of Missouri, we're the first ones that'll pop up. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We have Beyond Life Paranormal Research, the Missouri edition on YouTube. Um, I do my own podcast as well every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. We're also going to be at the Spirit and Paranormal Fair in St. Joseph, Missouri, October 13th through the 15th. I will be a guest speaker on Saturday at 3 o'clock talking about the paranormal, residential investigations, equipment, and the processes that we go through on our residential cases. October 20th, we're going to be in Marshall, Missouri at an event. They do a haunted house every year, and they asked us to come down and help out with the haunted house. And that movie theater has actually got some historical stuff to it. It was actually on the TV show Dead Files.
Yeah.
That's one of our investigative places. She only lets us go in there and investigate it.
Now,
Um,
you have pictures or videos on YouTube or on a Google?
I've got videos on YouTube. I've also got videos on Facebook and my TikTok. I've got evidence on TikTok from Hans Mill, the Mormon massacre site, where my REM pod is going off and my millimeter spiking, and that's just an open field. There's no electric whatsoever down there.
Yeah, that's ambient
And,
readings for sure. Yeah. Okay, I guess we're going to be closing out. In doing so, I usually do this, Russell. I usually hawk my books, and they what do they want as my first book, and my second book, in which I've done over again, republished it, re-edited, is Senseless Wars and Conflicts, and the book that comes closer to what we were talking about is Angels and Supernatural Entities. Yeah, that's the third book that's released this April and May. So that's hawking my books. I'm working on another one, and you're working on a book, right, Russell?
yep, I'm in the process of writing a book
Okay.
on the paranormal and some of my cases and experiences I've had and what I've actually seen through the paranormal, doing this for 30 years. And
Yeah.
we've
Once
come.
you get your book written, I can turn you on to a good a publisher.
Okay.
Hanger One Publishing, great guys. Alex and Doug had to check. They actually are the ones who are carrying two of my books. They're not carrying the war book. That's another genre. But the sci-fi book will probably be actually a different type of book. It's a sci-fi fantasy I'm finishing up. But you've been listening to Russell Reynolds, founder of Beyond Life Paranormal Research in Missouri. And he's on Google, he's on Facebook, and just looking him up on that name title. I'll have some of this information on the narrative of the show. So Russell Reynolds, thank you very much for being on the show. And I
Yeah,
want
thank you for having me.
and I want to thank everybody for listening and tuning into some scary stuff, but fascinating stuff, and some educational stuff for you people who are interested in if you have a ghost or not to find out on your own. And Russell just told us how to do that and the equipment and everything. So thanks a lot, Russell, and good night to all.